Hey, what is up, everybody? This is Dan from Rebellious Noise, and I am joined by Scott, Rob, and Lucas as we talk the review of Elimination Chamber 2021. Boys, we are well on the road to WrestleMania, and we've started getting little implications of what's going to happen at Mania. And we are going to kick off tonight, as we always do, with Graps and Grills with Scott.
Is that what we're calling it? Okay.
Graps and Grills. So, kickoff show.
Funnily enough, I actually did grill something. I made burgers. Burgers. I used my deep fat fryer for the first time in a while, so I had some nice steak chips in that. And really good meal. But saying that, it was probably the most intense cooking period I've had in the pre-show while we've been doing this. So weirdly enough, it meant I saw zero of the kickoff show this time around. So you win some, you lose some. So yeah, exactly. So although I had a really good meal, it just meant I spent even less watching the kickoff show. So I had no idea what that Fatal 4-Way was. I kept seeing it in the background. I was like, oh, it looks like it's a bit of fun. Until later on when John Morrison came out, and I was like, that's what that was about. So, yeah.
So, yeah, as we've mentioned, obviously, there was a Fatal 4-Way match on the kickoff show. It was announced on Twitter before the show that Keith Lee was pulled from the United States Championship match due to injury. That obviously screwed up our predictions because three of us actually said Keith Lee was going to win. But in the end, we had a Fatal 4-Way match which determined who took Keith Lee's place, and the participants in that were Mustafa Ali, John Morrison, Ricochet, and Elias. John Morrison obviously winning that match to go on to the main show to join the triple threat match alongside Lashley and Riddle. Rob, Lucas, did you see any of this match, and what did you guys think? Obviously, well, I didn't see any of it. Scott was cooking.
Yeah.
So
yeah, no, I saw it. No, it's okay. It reminded me the minute I heard the Retribution theme, the minute I saw them come out, it just reminded me why I'm so glad that I have not watched kind of weekly television in so long. Like, it's such a dead faction. It's the worst faction that's ever been booked in any wrestling promotion.
Oh, I don't know,
like, ever. Ever.
I mean, the book has been bad. Yeah.
Because I think because they positioned as meant to be decent at first, because at least like when they're rubbish, like the Oddities, for instance, or like Social Outcasts, like that, they only were meant to be like lower card fodder. But at some point, this was meant to be the big angle. They were blowing up and they were using chainsaws to cut up the ropes and stuff. And now it should fizzle down to what this is. But look, the match was all right. That it just shows that sadly that the Raw mid card is full of people who are kind of interchangeable, really, to be fair. I think it's kind of the right result, and I guess it links into something later on in the show. So I don't want to we'll speak about that one when we get to it, regarding like John Morrison. And I guess John Morrison hasn't had a match pay-per-view in such a long time now, so it was nice to kind of see him do his thing. And some nice kind of acrobatic stuff with Ricochet and Morrison in the match, as to be imagined, obviously. But yeah, no, and yeah, that's it.
Yeah, so I didn't see it. I was doing the same thing as Scott. I was cooking.
What do you have, mate? What do you have? Come on.
So I made myself some homemade noodles and rice. Yeah, threw in a bit of curry powder. I didn't fancy anything a bit too over the top, because every time I eat, I'm like, oh, it's always chicken, and I make myself really full, and I can't enjoy the pay-per-view because I'm too busy like feeling sorry for myself. I'll do something light.
Okay, I like it, right? Yeah, tactical eat.
Yeah.
So basically, you had a pack of super noodles, yeah?
It was close to super noodles. I could have done better on the noodles, but I'm not used to cooking them. But from what I see, it was or from what I heard, and then when they showed the replays, I'm annoyed that I missed it. It looked like a fairly decent match. But then I noticed they weren't banging on about whoever wins has to wrestle twice over that bit, but they were more bothered about saying that when
that's a good point,
the Elimination Chamber, they've got to wrestle twice, or so did someone else for the US Championship. So
very good point.
And apparently as well on the kickoff show, they were still actually mentioning who Asuka was going to face, when obviously we knew that wasn't going to
What?
Yeah,
apparently
they
so.
did.
Yeah,
Shame.
they were still mentioning it, but obviously, turns out she didn't actually fight anyone. Spoilers, but
Yeah.
there we go. So let's actually get into a match that we could actually predict, because obviously this didn't change. That was the first elimination match. The show obviously kicking off with the SmackDown Elimination Chamber match, which featured Daniel Bryan, Cesaro, Jey Uso, Kevin Owens, Sami Zayn, and King Corbin. So what we did, as you may have seen on the prediction show, is we all picked who we thought was going to win. We all picked who we thought was going to be the first eliminated, and we all got a random number. So Scott, your random number was 1, mine was 2, Lucas was 5, and Rob was 6. So do we all remember who our person was that came in at that number?
Cesaro for me.
So mine was Daniel Bryan. Obviously, there was a little bit of confusion online because some outlets were saying for some reason that Bryan was 1, Cesaro was 2. We've obviously figured out Cesaro
By
came
using
in
a little thing
Bryan.
called sense and logic, we figured it out by going, hold on, who got in the ring first? You know, but I don't know how many people got it wrong.
It would be like saying Randy Orton was number 1 in the Royal Rumble because they started out at the same time.
Yeah,
so,
and exactly like we spoke about online. Like, there is an argument to say they are both technically number 1 in the Rumble. But if you have to define on 1 and 2, it's who came out first, isn't it? So
exactly.
Very weird that anyone reported any other way. But hey, you know, maybe they're just as tired as we are after pay-per-view. So.
Yeah, exactly. So, one thing I did like when they came out was obviously kicking Sami Zayn's film crew out of ringside.
Yeah, that's pretty cool.
That was quite funny. But then it kind of contradicted itself, the fact of later in the night in the Raw one that Omos was allowed to stay at ringside, but Sami's people weren't. But
I'm guessing it's no one wants to really mess with Omos. I'm guessing that's the.
I don't know why WWE didn't just go like, have you got a film permit? And then that's how they got rid of him. You know, like they never used anything like that, did they?
Obviously, going back into the numbers as well. So obviously, Lucas, yours was Kevin Owens, and Rob, yours was Jey Uso. Surprisingly, the people that we picked to go out first were the people that none of us actually got numbers for. So that was kind of nice. But yeah, so I mean, what did you guys think of this? For me, this was match of the night. Really kicked off really well. So
yeah, I think so as well. I think it was. It was definitely the better chamber out of the two, just because so much more happened that you can remember. Let's face it, matches like this, it's the spots. You know, the spots and the moments, and this one had a lot of them. And it's hard to do that with things like chambers and Hell in a Cells and TLCs these days. But I think they did quite well in this. And mainly it was around Sami and Cesaro. Obviously, Sami. I absolutely loved when he didn't realise that the door had opened behind him. I thought that was hilarious. And then, Cesaro attacking him and then them climbing up to the top. There's also another bit where I think he ran towards Cesaro and Cesaro lifted him up and he kind of leapfrogged onto the pod as well. And then I think that's what led to them kind of climbing across and all that kind of stuff. And then Cesaro just looking amazing by doing the pull-ups as well once he had dropped Sami. But the mid-air camera cut was atrocious. It ruined the spot. Even the original shot they tried to show, which was kind of below from outside, I get why they did it, but it didn't look that good just because of the way Sami landed on his feet. Not expecting Sami to land on his head, don't get me wrong, but it just didn't look good from that angle. The fall kind of did, but landing didn't, and that's the replay shot they went with because it's clearly a shot they wanted and thought was the best. But maybe a wide shot would have been better for that because, and then the fact they cut to another one halfway through that, like they always do, it wasn't good. But, no fault of the actual guys themselves. They, cool spot. And, just generally, just really enjoyed it. A lot of fun stuff. And right down to the end as well, Jey Uso looking like he was, going to clean house on this one as well. And then obviously going up to the pod and the splash. I really enjoyed that. So, for me, really, really enjoyed it. I think there was a lot of times where you thought quite a few different people could actually win it. And, I was happy with the way it went. I really enjoyed actually starting with Cesaro and Daniel Bryan because it just felt like, it was a throwback. If you're an indie fan from, 10, 15 years ago, then this is, you know, it was a great way to start a pay-per-view, just seeing these two guys going at it. And then obviously it gets down to them at the end as well in the last kind of few moments. Yeah, obviously Jey Uso as well. But yeah, for me, really, really good match. And I really enjoyed seeing what everyone in it did.
Yeah, no, I think, definitely the better of the two chambers. And I must actually compliment both chamber matches for making everyone look good in both the matches. I think, obviously, you know, chamber matches, when we go from the conception of it, and the big names that were attached to them, like Triple H, Shawn Michaels, Undertaker, Chris Jericho, etc. And obviously, we have fizzled down a little bit since then, because obviously the main event scene now isn't what it was, 5 years ago, let alone 10, 15 years ago. But I think it's very good that they've made everyone kind of feel special in both matches. In terms of this match, I think, I had some time like this morning to kind of see some of the comments regarding this match. It seems like some people feel that Cesaro got robbed in this. And I just think it's just a case of, like, they haven't given him a title match before. They're not going to now. I think in some ways, if you was watching this expecting just Cesaro to win, you don't know much about WWE at all, the way I see it. Like, he's just not someone they're going to give the title to, or give a title match to. As much as we all love him, and like, you just touched upon, great seeing him and Bryan be able to do indie spots, great seeing him and Sami Zayn do stuff, great seeing him being in the ring like Jey Uso and Kevin Owens, but he's not getting a match against Roman Reigns. And, it's the kind of bittersweet pill, I guess, to swallow. I was really happy when Jey Uso came into the match. I think that he's someone who they need to be looking at, definitely for a IC title, in the imminent time to happen, as I don't think Big E's really working, in my opinion. And the IC belt hasn't even been on pay-per-view, I don't think, since he won it, for certain. And yeah, I think Jey Uso could be like their next kind of star coming out. It's really weird to say that, because obviously been part of the tag team for so long. I think I think they got rid of Corbin at first as well, which that was the right thing to do. Corbin, he came in, looked impressive. It is usual kind of stuff, the deep six spots and everyone. But once you've done that, that's basically all we needed to see him do. He doesn't need to be anywhere near even looking close to being popular. I think that stuff they've done before, which has angered fans, where when they get rid of someone like Cesaro first in this kind of scenario, where fans go, "Oh, push Cesaro." But now I think they got the balance right. Yeah, the finish sequence is quite good actually, because obviously Jey Uso had eliminated two people with the splash. Oh my God, how good was Owens' elimination? That was absolutely fantastic.
The arm being trapped in there. That was, I didn't catch why they had opened it, but
they opened it when Corbin got eliminated.
That's what. Okay, so he was leaving, and that's why it was open. I missed why it was open, but yeah, it was genius. I was starting to worry that it was going to be, oh no, this is just going to be a silly thing where he now fights into the second match with a broken arm and all that. I was thinking, oh no, they're going to go that way with it. It seemed a bit too obvious, but I was glad that it was like, no, that really damaged him and he's gone. So it works really well for Jay's story and for Kevin Owens' story as well, without having to drag it out.
But also in these kinds of matches, these kind of scenarios, like obviously, because now, this is the 27th and 28th chambers actually taking place at this pay-per-view. So it's not a new thing anymore. We've seen people do all the kind of spots you can imagine. So it is nice when they get a chance to do something still unique. And I think that's the joy of WWE in a way. Like they do find, even sometimes when they get it wrong and annoy us, they still do look for ways to go, let's find a way to be different in the scenario. Yeah. And that's something that's never been done before. Someone's never thought to utilise the fact that the person has to leave the chamber, so the door has to open. And the fact that he was like holding the door against, it just goes to show that Jey Uso now has completely changed, obviously being around Reigns. And yeah, I think, again, we talk about this every time, but I think the crowd response to that definitely at the end would have been very, very good when Bryan obviously did get the win. Yeah. I think that was the right decision, as much as I would have loved to see Jey Uso obviously win, instead. But I think that's the thing with this match. Like, there was a time once I got rid of Corbin where I was kind of happy for anyone to kind of win, and I think that really strengthened that end part of the match, and they got it right. Like, they didn't go on to, I guess the match to go a bit longer than the Raw one, but it didn't feel like it was longer. But yeah, no, I enjoyed it.
It was really hard to find a fault in this match, other than the fact that Cesaro was pushed really a lot, all of a sudden from nowhere. That would be my only issue. However, I'm willing to accept Cesaro being pushed. Like, I'm happy for him to be pushed. It's taken, how long has he been in the company? And he's finally in that position. But then a lot of people I've found online, a lot of people are moaning. But then if you remember, like, was it last year or the year before? Yeah, it was 2 years ago. Kofi Kingston was in the chamber, didn't win it. And then we had Kofi Mania. So, just because people are moaning now, wait to see the bigger picture and the outcome.
Yeah. I mean, I'm kind of like Lucas on that I don't see them doing that, but 100% want them to do it. But, I just, I feel like this is his, like, we'll give you something. We'll give it a little bit. I think it serves a purpose for WWE, makes Cesaro look strong a bit. Because he's had flashes like this before, the time when he came back after... on the Raw after Mania, which we interviewed him about, so go back and check that out. But yeah,
nice
so
guy as well.
He's a very lovely guy. But yeah, that he's had times like that. He's made things work that should never have worked. The bar, the tag team with Tyson Kidd, both incredible runs. So it's not his ability, but I think, like Lucas said, I don't think WWE want to do that anymore. And but it maybe this time it works. But after all the other times that it didn't, I don't know, man.
To be fair, I'm the same. I don't think they will pull the trigger on him winning, but I think at least he's one of those people that, okay, you might not win the title, but he could have a really memorable, like, chase. If Daniel Bryan didn't win it, but everyone remembers the chase, the yes movement and occupying the ring and stuff like that. Not that Cesaro will get that, but, he's going to have a good chase if they allow him to. But other than that, the whole thing with that, the chamber match was great. I love that Jey Uso done like the 2 eliminations, the splash at the top, like you mentioned. The way that Owens was eliminated was perfect. As you said, no one really utilises the chamber door itself. They normally just use the side of the chamber. But yeah, I don't really got everything you've kind of said is already been covered. I think my only issue is I don't like the look of the new chamber. I still think it's ugly. I prefer like the dome looking shape. With the more curved,
The
production
more brutal.
It looked good. Yeah, exactly that. It looks better as like a brutal structure, the old one, but this one is better for like production wise because they got more of the perspex that they can zoom through and stuff like that from the top of the pod. Those kind of shots are really cool. But the chamber
it's safer
itself
for the wrestlers as well, isn't it?
Yeah, exactly.
You've got all the padding on the floor and that.
100%. But like when you've had something look more brutal, it's like when we moved away from the Attitude Era in the hardcore ECW days. It was really hard to keep that level, you know what I mean? And then after a while, you're like, that's not safe. We shouldn't do it like that anyway. It took a while before that. Like now, if I see any kind of like spot, especially blood, you see blood now. Oh my goodness, you talk about it for about a month. You know what I mean? So, but back in the day, when they stopped doing all that, I was like, where's the blood? It's not even that brutal. How can you tell me this match is brutal when I've seen Eddie versus JBL? How is this brutal? That's brutal. But now, if I saw Eddie versus JBL, I might turn it off. I don't want to see that anymore. So I think it's kind of like that in that sense that it's going to take a while because this chamber's maybe the 3rd year they've used this one now, 2nd, 3rd year. And already I am starting to come around to it more. I still prefer the old one. But yeah, I mean, that first year, it's just like when they changed the cell and they made it even bigger. And the same thing, I was like, oh, now no one's jumping off it. That's the only reason why I was annoyed about it being bigger.
And when they changed it to red as well.
Yeah. Let's say that. But so I think it's going to, over time, I think WWE are basically training us just like they did with blood, just like they did with weapons and with the cell.
I think it's good, obviously, for the safety of the performers, like from that aspect. But then, the old one, it was like when they say, oh, it's the most brutal, like one of the most brutal
you bought
structures.
It,
it's like, if someone gets backdropped onto that, like, grating, that's going to hurt. Whereas now it's like they get backdropped onto it. It's like, okay, it's still going to hurt, but it's a lot more padded than it was in previous years.
Maybe what they should do is they could work to see if they could stain or dye the padding to make it look. I know it won't be still, but if it looks less like padding, basically, I think that might be good. Because I mean, it's a bit like when they do stuff like through the ring and through the stage. Like there's a crash mat there, but how they film it, they make it look like at least it is through the stage. You go, okay, I can believe that. Then they usually always have a picture or a shot where they do show the crash mat.
Accidentally, yeah.
But I think Scott, you're right with it. I think it's one of those things where I think as well, because obviously a lot of this stuff they've had to upgrade because they've started. 2 years ago they started with 4K cameras. This year they've started with the 8K cameras for the entrances and stuff. And so it's just, I guess, with it not being it's easier to make this one look better, I think, under those circumstances. With stuff like 4K and 8K cameras, they pick up on every single little blemish, little paint mark, scratch, which obviously with the old chambers and cells definitely had a lot of those. But I mean, I think it's better for spots too, to an extent, because you got the double pods, the double sided pod.
Well. Someone can actually stand up on top of the pod properly without having to like. Like seeing RVD
crouching. And even the door, I feel like the door's changed because of this whole new spot we're all saying how amazing.
They're slidey doors now apparently.
So what was it before? Was it like
it used to go round? I think like that.
Right.
Yeah. Big one where it went round like that. Now it just goes straight out.
No, sorry. The main door, not the.
The main cage door. No, I think that's the same. I
don't remember that being.
I swear before it was when they opened up. When they opened up.
It was, because now it's like a big sliding wall, basically, isn't it? So it was opened up before. Yeah, you're right. So that's probably why this is standing out. Yeah.
One other thing they need to sort out, that bloody perspex, because that took a pounding. Especially in that same pod, because you had Jey Uso go through it and Owens ripping it off.
Yeah, true. Yeah,
like they obviously didn't put it through properly, but
but yeah, it was really good. And another spot you mentioned, like being on top of the pods, Kevin Owens doing the moonsault, loved it, man. And the fact that he just got up there and he just did it. Sometimes they get up there and they linger. I think that might be a kind of like a mental thing as well. You wanted to get over and done with as far as Kevin Owens is concerned. Maybe he just wanted to get up there and do it. But the fact he's got up there, perfect moonsault back, landing on everyone. And again, we always say, a guy like Kevin Owens moving like that is incredible anyway. But what a great, it's one of those you love it when it goes on a highlight reel, when you get a chamber full of highlights that you can look back on and go, that was from that year. And I think that's going to be
I said this actually in another group, another person I was speaking to last night said that the dive spots in the chambers were actually really good because like you said, they all, and there was a bit of trepidation with the Kofi one, but I'll allow that more. Well, I guess Owens was going backwards as well, but he's literally going backward blind, isn't it? That dive he does. But still, there wasn't this. There's a lot of pity patty, like especially when it comes to. I don't want to be that kind of guy, but I think it definitely is AEW and an AEW woman's thing, where they just start running outside, blah blah, and they look up and they look at someone while they're jumping onto them, and it's just like. Oh, why? But this one felt very natural. I think in AEW in particular, it feels sometimes that they're having a normal match, like in a headlock, and then they just go to the outside and start fighting, and the point of that they've got to look up and someone's going to dive on them.
It does become very obvious. Yeah, exactly that. And I think maybe going back to the safety, maybe that's why you can do a quick spot like that, because it's like the landing on the grate that you would have landed on, 10 years previous, it wouldn't have been kind to you, so it would have been a lot harder to execute that quickly. So credit to the design in that sense.
Exactly.
Yeah, I was gonna say the only thing that really irritated me is Michael Cole calling him Uso and not Jey Uso. Like he has a first name, he's not on a one name basis.
No, not anymore.
It drives me
crazy.
He probably forgot, to be fair. You know what he's like. So yeah, for me, I mean, so I'm just gonna quickly go through. Like, I've got I just had a few little notes on mine. It was just a few little bits that I liked as well. In this was Jey Uso. There you go, giving him his full name for you, Rob. Jey Uso actually sitting down in his pod. It's like that's something that, although it's just seems like just something that you do. It's like you've not really. I don't really think I've seen people do that
Yeah, why waste your energy standing up? Especially if you're a heel. Think smart, mate. You know, like,
it's like, sitting
Where does it
down in
stop?
there, that was pretty
Someone
cool.
fall asleep in the pod next week. Bring a book.
That would be funny,
live
actually.
tweeting and stuff, you know, like do a little video of that, live video.
So Baron Corbin being the first one out, Cesaro swing and then into the sharpshooter, which was pretty cool. Scott and Lucas, obviously, you both said that he was going to go out first, so you've got a point for that. Me and Rob saying, obviously, that was going to be Sami. We weren't too far behind, obviously, going out through Kevin Owens' stunner. The funny thing as well, when Jey Uso got lobbed at the pod when the Perspex went flying, it smacked Jessica Carr straight in her head as well.
Yeah.
I guess it is still a dangerous match after all.
Yeah. It's like, now you see why, they didn't want the camera guys at ringside. So.
Yeah, true. Oh, one thing I forgot to mention as well is when Corbin catches Cesaro after that pull-up spot. That was really executed really well as well. So,
yeah.
Shout out to Corbin for that, because that's not easy to pull off.
Yeah, I think that's the kind of stuff I think he does well as well, you know, as a big guy as well. He's got that thing in him, Corbin. It's nice to see, obviously, all of our random numbers being the last 4 guys in the match. Obviously, Kevin Owens getting eliminated then. That obviously, Rob, you didn't really have the best chamber point-wise. Like, this is obviously Kevin Owens getting eliminated here. I liked the Bryan and Cesaro thing where he did the gut buster from the top rope.
Oh, from the top rope, yeah.
That was brutal.
Yeah.
And then the frog splash from Jey Uso, obviously eliminating Cesaro. And then, obviously, the finish of the match, as we know, was the frog splash from the top of the pod. Daniel Bryan getting his knees up. Running knee, 1, 2, 3. Daniel Bryan wins, giving me, Scott, and Lucas a point. Giving me a bonus point for the second place Daniel Bryan entry. So, yeah, and then obviously it then moved on to the chamber raising up and as we suspected, Roman Reigns coming out to cash in on...
It was like a cash
Not the first cash in on this show. It's not going to be the last one. So, yeah, Roman Reigns obviously cashing in on the fact that Daniel Bryan has just been through a brutal Elimination Chamber match, run straight in, went to hit a spear pretty much, Bryan locking in the yes lock. Made you think there was like, if it was going to happen, that would have been the way that it would have gone down. But obviously, Bryan got the yes lock in, Roman punched him, got out of it, locked in the guillotine, and Bryan passed out, not tapped out, passed out. So obviously, again, their points all round except Rob. So yeah, and then afterwards, spear by Edge, point at sign, all set. Announced later in the night, Roman Reigns Edge at WrestleMania 37. So yeah, it just means that there's going to be either a Universal title match at Fastlane, which is going to mean nothing, and Roman Reigns is going to win, or it means there's
it's best to keep him off it. Yeah, or just put him in like a tag match or something. Because we know if they're announcing that as the Universal title match, obviously we know card subject to change. There's meant to be a women's title match on this show. Yeah, true. Anything could happen. Yeah.
So
yeah,
it's the old adage, wasn't it? Anything could happen in the World Wrestling
Federation. Well, yeah.
Entertainment.
But yeah, I really liked the way it went straight into the is it the LaBelle lock? Yes, lock, whatever it's called these days. Yeah, really liked that Reigns basically made a mistake and, you know, Bryan capitalized on it. And then really liked Reigns fighting out of it, like really fiercely. It was like I was watching UFC, you know? And then I didn't quite like the fact that he was battered and passed out. I guess you kind of mentioned there, he passed out and didn't tap out, so that's good. But I think for a spectacle and excitement kind of thing, it wasn't the visual ending I wanted. But at the same time, I'm praising it because it was like MMA, and then I can't kind of put it down because it was also realistically ended like MMA either. So I kind of guess I got to take both sides of it. But yeah, I enjoyed it. It was what was going to happen. I don't know what that means for Bryan now. So in some ways, I think maybe if it weren't Bryan going on to face Reigns because he's got Edge now, then it should have been Cesaro because he could have had that could have pushed him even further. So you might as well do it. If you ain't going to win the title, you might as well put it on might as well had Cesaro win it. So other than that, I thought it was all pretty good.
Yeah, look, I think obviously the Edge and Reigns match was basically locked in, kind of the Dirt Sheet all kind of locked it in about a couple of weeks ago, and they haven't shifted from that. Obviously, they did the tease with him going to NXT, and they teased him, I think, with Drew, but that was never going to happen. I think, personally, given the fact that obviously what was to come later, that this match should have been a little bit longer, though. Like, not like a lot, but like, obviously I think it went a minute 30 seconds, but I think it should have gone maybe the 3 or 4 minute mark, because it did feel like a cash-in, which it weakened what was to come later on, because you've already seen it, essentially, in a weird way. It's not the first time they've done this, though, because I don't know if you remember that year when they just randomly decided that Batista was going to get to face the Chamber winner, like after the Chamber match, and he came out and he just beat Cena for the belt in like 20 seconds. Vince McMahon came out with them and said, "Yeah, you're getting a title match." And obviously that was Batista's original exit plan back in 2010. Then he lost the Cena like 3 times in a row and he left the company. But I think because it felt very much like a cash in. That was my only kind of gripe. But that only came, if you know what I mean, like after the shows ended. That makes sense, because obviously when that was happening live, we didn't know there was going to be a cash in, coming on. I'm fine with Edge and thing. I love the fact that the sign pointing got pyro. I think it's one of those things where WWE are about the king of touches, aren't they? They know that at the end of the day, podcasts like ours exist, and the other ones that are less better than us, they exist, and they know that we go crazy for the sign pointing. They know the memes exist. They know that people are going crazy for it, and so it's one of those things they've done to please us in a weird way. Because I don't know, I bet you, I laughed at that. I thought,
I did,
when he pointed the sign and the pyros came,
they exploded.
So they've got to just add to that. They've got the confetti, maybe some dancers,
lasers.
There's got to be, and because it's a little bit of fan service, which you don't get. You don't always give to us, but when they do, it's quite pleasant.
And while they've got no fans there, it's the best time to blow up some pyro. You can't do that next year, can you? It's normal. Because
they know it. There'll be so many memes and skits from that now. They will be used indefinitely now leading up to Mania. But yeah, look, we'll get to the edge thing obviously when it comes. As to what we do next, surely you'll think they do Bryan and Reigns at Fastlane then. But wouldn't that be the 3rd time they've done this at Fastlane, if that was the case? I think
those two themselves, or you mean?
I believe they have done Reigns and Bryan at Fastlane.
Yeah, I think because Edge looks so angry, Edge is going after Reigns, it seems. He's annoyed at Reigns after what Reigns was saying on SmackDown, about, I'll let you open my show, but I'm going to end it, or whatever it was he said. So now it's like, it's personal. So they've gone down that route rather than I'm the Rumble winner and whoever it is still. So I don't see Bryan getting thrown into it, and if he is, it's unrealistic that he's going to win the title at Fastlane. So there's no point, because now the story is Edge doesn't like Roman. Edge is annoyed at Roman. We mentioned it all on the Rumble review, so go back and listen to our rants there about why it should be. The flirting of NXT actually made me think, oh, maybe then that's not so bad. I don't mind that as much. So it's disappointing he has chose Roman, because I'm not looking forward to. I mean, again, I'd like to see that match, because when you think about it, they've never had that match. So when you take a step back and you go, man, Edge is back and he's facing Roman Reigns, I would have loved that 2 years ago. But again, it's what we said on the Rumble thing. It's the Rumble spot and the title being this, but it is what it is. It's just more frustrating because they did flirt with the option that we didn't think of in the Rumble pod, which is the NXT route. But I guess we're gonna have to go with So I basically, what I'm saying is I'd rather Daniel Bryan wasn't going for the title of Fastlane, because I don't buy it. So I'd rather it was a tag match, or Reigns is on the outside watching Edge face someone, something like that.
What would they do? Would they do maybe Jey Uso and Reigns against?
Yeah, Jey Uso and Reigns.
Bryan and Cesaro.
It's Christian, to be nice. Probably won't do it Christian, because
not a Fastlane anyway.
Yeah.
By the way, it was 2015 Roman Reigns defeating Daniel Bryan in a singles match for Roman Reigns' #1 contendership to the World Heavyweight title at WrestleMania 31.
Yeah, I thought so. They've done literally this exact same, well, not exact same, because Reigns was fighting to get the number one contendership at that time, but they did this time. It would be for Reigns to still be basically fighting in to retain his spot at Mania, I guess.
Yeah.
But just done the different way around. That was when Reigns was the babyface, and you know, he had to be the babyface, and everyone had to cheer him because that's what you must do.
Ever Fastlane pay-per-view as well. That was.
Yeah, I remember the match. It's a very bloody good match as well. To be fair, it's a very good match. But it was
the show as well.
Yeah, no, it was one of those where you realise that Fastlane is just a dead pay-per-view, and it's just one of those where I think it is that tease of they might change something, but like, are you really going to do? If you are going to do that, surely the Chamber's the best one to do it in, isn't it?
Yeah,
because it's got the numbers working against it, you know, working for you. You've got 6 pockets of possible options, so you've got 5, you've got one, you know, surefire one, you know, let's say, and then you've got 5 other wild cards, essentially. Yeah. And especially like this year, when they've had the Chambers, particularly with the Raw one, where it was so stacked, where you had literally, you had 4, you know, you had 6, you had 5 world champions, you know, in the match with Drew. Yeah. We'll get to that. But yeah, look, overall, this was fine. What do you think, Rob?
So I'm hitting.
He's annoyed because he thought it'd be Kevin Owens.
No. So this is my thing. If Bryan was inevitably gonna lose, then you could let Cesaro win the match, the chamber match, and just let him have his title match, lose it, be done with it.
Yeah.
Because now they've booked themselves. I feel like they've booked themselves into a situation. Daniel Bryan has become the ultimate underdog again, defeating all these things, being at number 1.
He needs to go and face Reigns and avenge it, don't he? Yeah.
Exactly, which we know if he's going to do that at Fastlane, Bryan isn't going to win because it's now Edge versus Roman. So they've done it again where they've put you in a position where I literally don't care about that main event. I don't like the fact that they pointed at a sign and it exploded. If you want to make a statement, just spear him, walk out. Like, I didn't need to see the sign. How long since Royal Rumble has Edge been teasing who he's going to go against? All right, and now all of a sudden he comes in after that match, after Roman looks victorious, he spears him and just walks out. That's more of a statement than pointing at Mania, in my opinion. I don't need for you to point at a sign to know what's coming. If you've literally just come from nowhere and speared Roman,
it would have told the same story. But like Lucas said, though, they kind of need the, you know,
which I appreciate, but you know, make your mark and don't stand there, like, or actually just spear him.
I think it's because, like you say, it's made you not care about that match. So the point just drives in the kind of cheesiness, the awkwardness of it. I think that's what it is. Like, it was one thing going, all right, he chose Roman, but it's another thing when he's like, I chose Roman, and we're like, we really wish.
As you said, you know? You might as well just brought down confetti as well, you know, or just give him the title there and then. Because let's face it, if he's going against Roman, the only person who's going to dethrone him is Edge for Roman. Because if what would be the point now?
This whole build,
having Edge win the Rumble, go all the way up and have Roman win. It was completely pointless. You could have done that with anyone. Literally, you could have done that with Otis.
It's not getting crazy.
I think you could have done that build up with anyone. You know, at this point, and I feel like it's literally just become a position of, we know what's happening, we know Edge is going to win, so I'm not bothered by it. And I feel like everyone else now who's in a part of that chamber was literally there for that moment. They weren't there for anything else. They were literally there to lose and put over that moment. So, and I feel sorry for Daniel Bryan.
The argument that I used when someone thought that Owens would win, I think if the spot was to lose in like 2 minutes, I think it had to be someone that hadn't faced Reigns yet. Because Owens had obviously faced him 3 times, lost. So he then lost again. I mean, a scenario we were talking about in the predictions was obviously, you know, they want to maybe rectify the finish at last month. But I think that would have, you know, annoyed people even more if to rectify that, they then decided to basically drop him out in like a minute 30. I'd argue that they don't need to have maybe Reigns wrestle on Fastlane, but I think they needs to be, in order to make it kind of fair, I guess, to have Bryan at least have a match against Reigns at some point. But then you'd argue that that's a pay-per-view ready match. The only other thing I can think of is that ticket sales, they've got to be announcing ticket sales soon for Mania, like, surely. And so obviously they want a main event locked in. As the women's, as we get to when we get to it, obviously that's not known what's happening because of all the everyone's pregnant, everyone's having a baby. They don't want to wrestle.
It's going to end up being Reginald versus Sasha, isn't it?
Put it this way.
Yeah, he's weirdly too involved in that division, like having matches and everything. I wouldn't be surprised if he did end up winning the title.
But I mean, yeah, I guess they want like a big match announced before they obviously put tickets on sale, which I'm assuming, I reckon they're going to announce it tonight on Raw, and that'll be the reason why they've done what they've done. Because I think Edge facing someone doesn't sell as much as Edge facing Roman, I think, is what they're thinking.
Yeah, I think, like you say, because they wanted to lock in, this is what Mania is, but for good reason. But it's just unfortunate, to us at least, it's the match that none of us really wanted to be the one that was drilled down and now down so soon, or at all, not soon because it has lingered, but just at all really. I don't think it is a good idea. But hey, I'm sure come Mania would appreciate the match. Don't get me wrong, but again, that's not what we're annoyed about, is it? So Edge isn't the problem. Reigns isn't the problem. Edge facing Reigns ain't even the problem for me. It's exactly what we said last month. It's timing. It's all about timing. So
yeah. But I guess with them obviously not knowing, with us not being able to know what's going to come in the WWE title picture, that like for definite, like now, because there'll be obviously a situation happening at Fastlane. They can't really go. Well, Fastlane like 3 weeks before Mania, I think. You can't really go like 3. You can't really just announce a main event for your show. 3 weeks. Well, it wouldn't surprise me.
Wow.
To the degree nowadays.
Yeah, current booking.
See, I think what they're going to do with the WWE title, I think they'll probably have Drew challenge for it at Mania and win it, so that he can have his moment in front of fans that he was meant to have last year. Yeah. So that could be a way, but then does he face Miz, or is somebody going to obviously beat him for it? But yeah, talking of the Miz, then that segues nicely into the backstage segment that came after this match. Was obviously him having a little chat backstage with Bad Bunny, the 24/7
laying those
champion.
seeds, you ain't even on the show, mate.
Yeah, you're not on the show. You've not got a title, you're not a champion. And then obviously some crusty slap straight around the face of the Miz. Obviously quite nice. He's got one of those faces that you'd love to slap. But yeah, and then obviously it then led into the United States Championship match, which was Bobby Lashley, the champion, with MVP in his corner, defending against Riddle and the man who won the pre-show match, John Morrison. So with this match, our predictions for it become null and void because obviously Keith Lee didn't make the match. And I suppose none of us would have won points anyway, because the only person to not say Keith Lee was, I believe, Lucas, and you said Bobby Lashley, and obviously Bobby Lashley surprisingly lost this match, but we can see now why they made it a triple threat. So Bobby Lashley didn't have to take the pin. So obviously, with this match, Matt Riddle came out in his Evel Knievel gear. That was pretty cool. The end of the match pretty much came when John Morrison is locked in a hurt lock. Matt Riddle took the crutch, he took MVP's crutch that was in the ring, smacked Bobby Lashley in the back with it, hit the Bro Derek on John Morrison to win the title and become your new United States champion.
Yeah, I actually really enjoyed this match because I felt like everybody looked the way they should look. All right, we'll get into the result and what it means for each guy, but I thought Riddle looked great. He looked legit in this. I know, Rob's not the biggest fan, but I feel like he was less. Once he wrestles, he's not that silliness. It's not. I don't mind Riddle's character. I just don't like it when it's turned up to 1,000,000%. But him in the ring, I think he's great, and I think he worked very well with the other two guys. I laughed at MVP saying to Morrison, and like you said earlier, Lucas, Morrison actually getting a pay-per-view match was really nice to see. But saying to Morrison, you really thought that was going to do it with a Starship Pain? You really thought that was going to keep down the Almighty? I thought that was really funny. But I think they worked really well together. It would have been a completely different match with Keith Lee. I would like to see what that would have been. And I do kind of feel like Keith Lee probably would have been the one to win it. I don't think... Riddle was the one they wanted. I think they just wanted the title off of Lashley to move him on, which we'll get into. But giving it to Riddle, I think, it's gonna be interesting if they use him the way they did in that match. If it becomes about his wrestling, I'm happy to see him have a run. If it becomes about him being a comedy thing and basically being another R-Truth, doesn't need the US title then, does he? You know, so but the moment itself was good. I just love the fact that Riddle used the loophole that it is a no DQ. You know, like he just went, it's a no DQ. Boom. Like, you can't get rid of me for this. So I like the fact that he just straight up did it. They do that every now and then, obviously, in these kind of triple threats, but they try and ignore it until it suits them. I just like that it was a wrestler using his initiative, going, I'm just going to do it, and I'm going to win a title with it. And I'm a baby face, and I'm going to do this. You know, I thought it was really well done. I really liked it. And even the crutch thing, it even got me thinking, is MVP really injured? Because I heard he was injured. So when he came out with a crutch, it made sense. But yeah, the fact it worked out so well for the finish, I just thought, man, maybe even that's storyline. But yeah, so because of that, it was a nice short match. And not only that, Lashley lost, but he looked amazing for so much of this. I was writing it in the group chat, and I was right, Lashley looks amazing. And then literally, as I went to press send, something silly happened, like he fell out of the ring, like I think Riddle pulled the ropes down or something like that. So I just deleted it. And then like 5 minutes later, he started look good again. And Lucas wrote in it, oh yeah, Lashley looks amazing. I thought, yeah, I was right. I just didn't have the guts to say it once he fell out of the ring. But yeah, no, I thought he looked really good.
No, I think it's important, obviously, well, at the time of this is the thing with this show, at the time of watching this match, it was just a case of, okay, Lashley just looks really strong. But then when Lashley lost, the first initial reaction I had was he'd best be getting a main event like spot now. There's no other reason to have him lose. He's honestly been, like, Hurt Business have been the best part of Raw for the entire year. They've been together, and Bobby Lashley has been the star of the Hurt Business. So, you know, by kind of de facto elimination, he is, like, for me, one of the most enjoyable parts of the product. And he deserves that main event, like, really deserves it. He's worked his ass off to get there. But yeah, the match itself, like, I think if you're going to have Riddle, I mean, I'm not a Riddle fan, but if you're going to have Riddle win, that was probably the way to do it, I guess. Obviously, John Morrison is disposable, you know, at this point. And that's probably another argument for another day. But look, it was, what I liked about this, the pacing here was really good, because both the two, I guess, they were mid-card matches. This and the women's tag match, you know, went like 10 minutes. So it obviously bookended with the Chambers being, you know, 30, 35 minutes, plus entrances, obviously. Plus, did no one mention the fact they did two promo packages in the SmackDown Chamber? We did one at the start of the Chamber. 4 people came out. They did another promo package. And 2 more people came. Really, really, really odd. Yeah. But anyway, yeah, like, you know, by the time you got all that in, it was quite obviously heavy. You know, you got a lot of bang for your buck at this event, particularly as it was, you know, 2.5 hours long, as we get to later on. But yeah, look, I mean, if Riddle's going to win, that's the way to do it. And Lashley moving to main event, it's a good thing. So that's, yeah, thumbs up for me.
Cool. There we go.
Are you popcorn ready? To be fair, the minute we knew that Lee was out, it was literally a case of, right, either Lashley's winning or Riddle's winning. They're not going to give it to Morrison's now. There's no need for him to have it. It's literally just a filler guy. For some reason, I still thought that Lashley could win, and they'll just elongate it a little bit more and then have a big payoff maybe at Mania. But Riddle won. At the end of the day, maybe, as you said, maybe it's time for Lashley to go into the main event picture. Good for him. He's worked his ass off the last year, especially with MVP. You know, it's the perfect payoff for him as long as he goes that way. If he doesn't go to the main event picture and then shuffles himself back down the card again, then what was the point in giving it to Riddle? Because at the moment, the only 2 titles that I'm bothered about is the Universal Championship because of Roman and the US one because of Bobby Lashley. No disrespect to Drew, but, you know, it's the WWE Championship, and I feel like WWE doesn't really care about that one at the moment either, the way they've booked him and stuff. And the IC is like a hot potato. You know, it's lost all credibility that it had at one point with, like, Miz and Dolph. You know, so, yeah, if Lashley doesn't go into the main title picture, then I think it was just a waste of time. I'm not a fan of Riddle. Like, I don't like the character, but he's a fantastic wrestler when he starts wrestling. And as you said, doing what he done as a babyface, it reminded me of, like, you know, the, like, cheating still the Eddie Guerrero guy.
Yeah.
You know, you know, he could do that and kind of get away with it. So if he has that kind of angle going forward, great. You know, it's like a sleazy win, but we don't mind it. You know, it's because he's a babyface.
Yeah.
But book it that way. Don't all of a sudden then let him go, as you said, into the R-Truth Otis comedy thing. Because if he goes that way, put him on a 24/7 championship. You know, and let him do all that stuff. But yeah, we'll see what happens. Maybe him having a championship might change my mind about Riddle. But
this could be a sign of new beginnings, right? Oh, that'd be nice.
Maybe, but I'm willing. I'm willing to give it an opportunity as long as they don't screw him over. Because sometimes it's not even a wrestler.
You can't do that, mate. That's not how wrestling fans work. We just, you know,
I know.
Black and white, mate. It's AEW or WWE. Come on.
but yeah, you know.
Yeah,
it's as I said. Sometimes it's not even a wrestler; it's the booking, and as you said, with the Edge thing as well, it's not even him versus Roman; it's timing. So I'm hoping that, regardless who's got it, but now it's Riddle, I'm hoping they actually do something to keep it elevated because Lashley's done a fantastic job of making that title mean something.
Yeah.
So you know,
it'd be a shame if it was wasted. Yeah, 100%.
Exactly.
I mean, and the thing is, they've done some really good stuff with the US title before. Like, you look at when Cena had it, and he legitimized that title.
Yeah, that was great
to no end. And you know, I think Lashley's run's been pretty similar actually. He's done some good things with it. But you know, moving on obviously with Riddle, you know, I think the whole thing with Keith Lee is a little bit strange, really, because obviously there was the rumors that it could be something related to what's going on at the moment. With like Mia Yim having COVID, and there was speculation that he had it. There's now obviously coming out that the injury could be a legit injury that he's got and that he's taking some time off for that. But it's more than likely that WWE just didn't know what to do with him. So, I mean, when you think about it, I don't think they've not really done him a good deal of justice on the main roster, so to speak. But I'm not sure, like, looking at this, I don't really feel like they would have, although I did say that he would have won the match, I don't, like, looking at it now, I think he could well have been the one that would have just been there to take the fall, you know. I think, I wouldn't have, go on, sorry?
Was MVP injured before? Well, how was MVP injured?
I think he got injured on Raw. It was one of those like innocuous things. I think where he like just sort of landed and twisted his knee.
It was this past week, though, right? So the week that same night that obviously Keith Lee weren't there. It was the same night, right?
Yeah. So Keith Lee got attacked on Raw. I think 2 weeks ago by Lashley.
Because when they did the 4-way and still had it as a triple threat, I was like, well, Riddle's obviously. I felt that it was obvious that Riddle was winning.
Yeah.
Because if Lashley was just going to retain, we just had them beat Riddle.
A one-on-one, yeah.
That's
the thing.
And I know obviously you could argue that they wanted to give the fans what they paid for, kind of thing. But it's like, well,
they paid for a women's
they never
title
stopped
match,
before.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah. But I mean, like, it was a triple threat. They want to keep it as a triple threat. So but it was literally, I think, just because Riddle was winning, and they needed someone there just to take the fall. And so you know, they don't like Trevor. And so Elias is a villain, so is the other one in the match, Mustafa Ali. And so it was a case of like, okay, Morrison's the one. But yeah, whatever's going on with Keith Lee, I guess that's kind of separate. But yeah, look, I think it's a new thing for the division, I guess. And obviously, I think people are in the right place still. I think Riddle could have a decent little run.
It could be good,
the main event.
Yeah. I mean, it all depends. I mean, you look at how well SmackDown have done with with the IC title picture. Like, that looks quite strong. It's like they could do the same on Raw with with the new
strong, but you can't get.
It weren't on the card, mate.
Yeah,
hey, that's strong.
No, but because most of the guys are in the Elimination Chamber match that are generally in the IC title picture, but. So going back to obviously with Raw, they've got the Bro United States Championship now, which will probably come out. Obviously, I'll copyright that now before they make t-shirts of it. But yeah, so I think overall in the context of it, I think the right person probably won because of what it looks like it's leading to with Bobby Lashley. So. We move on now to the women's tag team title match, which featured Nia Jax and Shayna Baszler defending the title against Bianca Belair and the SmackDown Women's Champion, Sasha Banks. Now, for me, bit of a pointless match, really. Why would you put the two people that? How many times have they bloody done this now on the road to WrestleMania? I thought they were gonna, if they were gonna do it, I thought they would have been like, we'll put the titles on these two, and then we'll just go on and they'll face each other at Mania. We've seen it so often over the years. I remember the year I went to Mania 23, the main event there was Shawn Michaels and John Cena, who were tag team champions at the time, feuding over the WWE title. It's like,
I hate that. Yeah, I hate when they do that.
Just Ray and Eddie did it as well, didn't they?
Exactly. You've got a world champion. So in this case, Sasha Banks, SmackDown Women's Champion. She doesn't need the tag titles. You've got the Riot Squad there. You've got Natty and Tamina there. You broke up the bloody Iconics, and there's a match set for, at time of recording, 2 weeks' time. I think it's the 3rd of March episode of NXT, which is obviously the winner of the Women's Dusty Rhodes Cup, which was Raquel Gonzalez and Dakota Kai. They will take on now Nia Jax and Shayna Baszler. It was, and obviously the SmackDown. So the awkward thing for me is you've got this match. If you're going to have new champions, then that's fair enough. But then if you're not going to have new champions, it means that you've either got to pin your SmackDown Women's Champion, or you've got to then pin the number one contender for that title, who you're trying to make look strong. Unless you do some kind of DQ or count out or something like that. But they went for the first option. They went for actually pinning the SmackDown Women's Champion. Now, granted, it was due to Reginald coming out and interfering. But still, like, Nia Jax just hitting a Samoan drop and pinning her in the middle of the ring.
It shows that Belair could just do that then. Maybe not the same move, but yeah, she could do exactly that, man. Like, I think it would have been best to do a DQ, or if anyone should lose it, maybe Bianca, because then it could sow a little bit of doubt. And then she could be like, can I beat Sasha at the pay-per-view? Can I, I had this setback. Can I do it? I did the Rumble. Yeah. Like that, if you're going to make either of them take the pin, it probably should have been Belair to make the champion look more of a threat and strong. But yeah, I, like you, man, not a fan at all of them doing this. Ironically, them two as a team, another thing, no timing-wise. Don't want to see it at the moment. I think they work well together. The characters mesh, and they have good chemistry. We don't need it right now. It doesn't make any sense. And as you alluded to as well, all the teams they could use, all the teams they break up. This division has been a complete mess since this inception. I think you've just got to look at it that way. They've had bright spells. They've had good moments. And it has a lot of potential. And a lot of it's not the fault of the stars, but the amount of double champ things we're getting, the amount of thrown together teams we're getting, when there are teams on it. Why weren't the Riot Squad in this match? If you want a tag title match, put the Riot Squad in it. It's because they wanted Belair and Banks on the show. That's all this was. They wanted them on the show to remind you that this is a Mania build. That's all it is. And it felt to me they could have done something else with that, So that was if Sasha weren't going to lose the title here, and it is Sasha, she could have just had a title match and thrown a bit of with Carmella again, maybe, I don't know, but she makes more sense because of the Reginald mix and Reginald being weird about them three. So I don't know. I mean, I did Reginald and the bubbly. I thought it was funny that he kind of accidentally screwed up there. Maybe they're going to go somewhere with this whole obsession thing, but yeah, it just annoyed me. And although Nia and Shayna has kind of worked, it's just another reminder of this time last year, Shayna was on fire. And what did they do with her? The Chamber last year for Shayna, one of the greatest showings in the Chamber ever. If it weren't for an anniversary, I don't think many people would even remember that even happened.
Yeah, I mean, I think, we could probably do a whole podcast on why the women's tag belts have flopped. And I'm just still annoyed that every single person in that tag team match got an individual entrance. And then just reminded that the next tag team, because I found out that it's Naomi and Lana won a shot at the belts as well. So another put together tag team are next in line. And then after that, fair enough, the Kai and Gonzalez are kind of they're kind of like a female Diesel and Shawn Michaels, aren't they? I'm guessing that's that kind of thing, isn't it? Like she's bodyguard. But again, even then, they have separate entrances. Which is like, just at least
teams. Get teams.
Yeah, I mean, I think personally, like Nia and Shayna, like surely they've gone because obviously in my head I'm like, Nia and Shayna were obviously put together at first because they were feuding, weren't they? They were feuding, and then maybe they won the tag box, and then they were going to split up. That's that's not happened, and it's clearly probably not going to happen. And we'll get to the state of the Raw Women's Division very, very soon. But I mean, if Nia and Shayna aren't going to split up, why not make them into the female bar, essentially?
That's what I think they kind of are. I think they lucked out with the bar. You know, like we mentioned earlier about Cesaro, they lucked out that worked out. And I think they're kind of getting that with this as well. And that is down to Shayna and Nia working well together. That is not down to booking.
Oh, yeah, absolutely. But I think one of those things where they should capitalise and go, okay, look, let's now make it a proper team. They get matching gear. They get one entrance. It saves time and pay-per-view. Yeah. One entrance. They come out together like a tag team, and they're villains. They've already got 2 tag team title reigns to their credit, so they're already like quite established, definitely in terms of women's tags. And then you can feud them with another actual tag team, the Riot Squad. You know, who I don't know what Liv Morgan has done to get the treatment that she gives. But anyway, to this actual match, I actually disagree with you, Scott. I think they've done the right thing because Sasha Banks is obviously more established on the main roster, and at least she hasn't done the losing on first title defense. She beat Carmella fair and square like 2 times in a row. Obviously, Belair's her push began at the Rumble, because obviously before that she was kind of flip-flopping on the main roster on SmackDown for a while. And so I think it would have made her look worse if she had taken the pin. I think Sasha can just afford to take that pin. She was, like I said, in the past year, she's been Raw women's tag and now SmackDown women's champion. You know, she's main evented pay-per-view, I think. Main event pay-per-view. Or been at least in the women's title match at most of them. So I think she could afford to take that pin. The match itself was dead though. Like, oh my. It just showed that it was one of those where, like you said, it was a commercial for WrestleMania essentially. Just to remind you, these 2 women are going to be, they exist basically, and they, the women's, and it's a shame it's come to that, because I felt personally, I think we all did actually when we watched it, that the Women's Rumble match itself was actually a really, really good match. Yeah. And it was the best, I think personally, was the better of the 2 Rumble matches. And like I said, this time last year, the Women's Chamber match was better than the Men's Chamber match. Yeah. And we're really excited about what was to come, after that with Shayna Baszler. But now we're back to, sadly, the women's stuff not really happening at the moment. I think
they hired, in order to highlight the women, they damaged the women. They made the women's tag titles mean nothing just so they could show the women and put the women, as in Belair and Sasha. It was to make them, like you say, an ad for WrestleMania at the expense of, ironically, the women's division. One of those challenger or champion has to take a pin, and the tag titles look ridiculous. Who wins?
I think they've got an uphill battle.
You could have just had a singles match, had Sasha beat somebody, and then Bianca maybe come out after the match, do a bit of a stare down and be like...
Get some fireworks, baby!
It's like, you, me, WrestleMania.
Exactly.
There it is.
Pyros.
Make use of that pyro button.
Yeah. Well, it is what it is, isn't it?
Yeah. But anyway, I mean, the thing as well is, they're onto a good thing. Obviously, they've got the Raw SmackDown tag titles. We've spoken a lot about them, obviously, the lack of male tag teams. But then the fact is the women's tag team titles, they introduced them and they said they'll be defended over on Raw, SmackDown, NXT. I'm guessing NXT UK as well. It's like there's 4 different
There's so many options.
Brands go on. Yeah. It's like, are you telling me that there's not another 2 people that could have stepped into a role against Nia Jax and Shayna? But if they weren't going to have a women's tag title match, you could have done that. Or even
less established people as well. I'm all right putting single stars together who haven't had big runs already. Younger talent who have just come in and aren't doing much. That's how they should do. Like they did the Riot Squad. They made a team real early with those guys. And now they are seen as a team.
Exactly.
But, well, they blew their chances with Iconics. I'm going to keep saying it. Why break up an established team and then put together makeshift teams that do absolutely nothing? There's no credibility to them winning titles. There's 2 options, right? Send it to NXT, get it off of Nia and that. Send it to NXT and let NXT have that, and then make that an NXT Women's Championship, or scrap the whole title completely. Because What's the point? All they're doing is putting more women on TV. They're getting screen time for what? They're not doing anything with it. The match was awful. No one looked good in it. They booked themselves into a bad corner. They didn't do anything right with it other than what? Reginald come out and then cause an issue with some champagne. Which, where's the payoff? There's no payoff for any of them other than screen time. And I don't think any of them really want screen time like that. I mean, as you rightly said, Scott, last year, Shayna Baszler looked incredible. This year, she was in an awful women's tag team championship match
you can argue
with
she's a
another
champ,
makeshift team.
Yeah, if the title don't mean diddly, then who cares? You know, she looked better
Exactly.
last year without a belt than she does this year with one. How's that work?
Well, 2 words, Bella Twins. I've said it several times.
Yeah,
Bella
I think
Twin.
that is,
Bella
ironically,
Twin.
I know some people ain't going to like that, but that is the chance to save this division. It really
Credibility, mainstream. They're not bad workers, not the best. They're not going to get the 5-star.
They're better than they
match
used to be as well. Like people
But-
forget about Nikki Bella's last run as Divas champ. Like it was
Yeah, and obviously, I
Going
mean,
into Hall of
Brie
Fame as
Bella
well.
is married to Daniel Bryan. I mean, she had to have picked up something. It's just such a dead division. It's a shame because it started off really strong. That first initial run from Chamber, when they went through at the Chamber a few years back, through to WrestleMania, the Iconics winning them. Even when Kabuki Warriors had them, they felt like decent for a little bit.
Yeah.
But yeah, this past kind of 8 months, very sad.
It's been awful.
Oh, well.
Yeah. So then obviously the next part was the backstage segment, little one with the Miz and MVP. It's one of those where you can't hear what they're saying, but
It looked like a
screaming.
cutscene from an old SmackDown game. Like,
Yeah,
I
when-
was playing the music over the top. It was really weird.
And a strange thing as well. So the Miz is not booked on the show, but the entire show, and you've seen him in a couple of backstage segments, he's wearing his gear.
Yeah.
Yeah,
It was a little bit obvious, wasn't it? But yeah.
It's like, why not have your suit on and then surely as soon as that Elimination Chamber match starts, get into your gear then. That would have...
He should have come out in his suit.
yeah, he had like
I think that would have
45
been there.
minutes.
Or just do the whole Cesaro thing, come out in a rip-off suit or something.
Give a conversion.
I think he should have just come out, left his suit trousers on, and just took his shirt off. That, you know.
Yeah. We'll get to that, I'm sure.
So we now move on to the main event of the evening. That is for the WWE Championship, decided inside the Elimination Chamber, where Drew McIntyre defended his title against Sheamus, Kofi Kingston, AJ Styles, Jeff Hardy, and Randy Orton. So, yeah, with this one, obviously, we knew before the match that Sheamus was going to be the final entrant in the match. That was obviously... Rob, you got number 6. Me and Scott again starting the match out. Scott with Jeff Hardy, me with Randy Orton. That worked out quite well. It also worked out very well for Lucas, who picked Randy Orton to win the match. Yeah, so, I mean, for me, overall, I think it wasn't as good as the SmackDown Chamber match. Surprised, obviously, that Randy Orton went out first. Oh, that's the point. Actually, you guys may have actually seen on the prediction show that majority of us picked The Miz to go out first. But because the match changed literally a couple of days after we'd recorded it, in our little group chat, we decided, okay, so as it's been announced in advance, far enough in advance, we will just get another pick to, obviously, because it's a chamber match.
We all go wrong.
Who goes out first? All of us said Jeff Hardy. So there was obviously 2 men that went out before him in this match.
And Jeff looked bloody strong in this.
Yeah. And it was, I mean, for me, it was strange Orton going out first. I think a lot of people were thinking Orton's going to be in one of the pods. There's going to be some Fiend shenanigans. Nothing at all in that sense. Yeah, he actually went out first with Kofi Kingston eliminated him. And then he literally just RKO'd everyone.
Strange, yeah. Strange that he went out first, and that is a man that's been in, 2 mega feuds at the same time. At the he was basically in 2 giant feuds, and yet none of them. Well, obviously, the Edge one's not happening anymore, it seems, and the Fiend one is being delayed even longer. So very strange that none of those things played a part, and we've ended up with Randy Orton just being eliminated. Like you said, though, he went mad at the end of all the RKO, so he still looked strong. But yeah, very shocked to see that. But I like that. So I like a shock elimination in the Rumble. So, so that was good to see at least.
I think they made a point in his entrance of saying that he basically had beef with every single one of the people in the chamber.
Yeah,
and there were some brilliant moments that they got because they had the mics on, didn't they, in the pods?
Yeah, I really like that, actually.
And so Kofi was saying
his quads
about his legs.
He's like, yeah, you've been working, look good.
And AJ was doing stuff to him as well. So it was so I think they went down the line of they're going down. Think of Orton. I guess you got many arcs now. Yeah. And the arc they with this one is the arc of Orton's thing.
Everyone hates him, yeah.
Yeah, everyone hates him, and obviously Orton's the cocky guy who gets every opportunity anyway. Yeah. So, he was being very cocky, and how he lost was like that. So it wasn't too much of an issue. I think this one, it was less spotty, I guess. Well, it's the same. You had 2 dives off the pod still.
The awkward cluster suplex thing where Drew looks a bit too tall to be involved. His legs are awkwardly hanging. It looked like it was going to be wrong, but yeah, not the.
I guess you had less, and maybe less polished spots might be the right phrase here, because obviously the Raw main eventers are on a whole the more experienced. I don't know what the right word is. Older. Yeah.
But they're in that. They are the main event WWE style. Whereas Dan said earlier, a lot of the other guys were IC kind of picture guys, or former indie guys sort of thing.
But I think it worked. I think it wasn't like this one was really bad compared to the first one. It's just the first one was just very, very good.
Yeah.
This one obviously was just good. The right guy won. I think everyone still got strong. The one thing I noted actually, with both his chambers, is they actually made finishes mean something again, because no one kicked out of a finisher, as far as I know, in either chamber. Particularly with the Jey Uso, they made that splash seem like that was it. And even little bits Kevin Owens hit the Son of Zayn, that was it. That was literally it. And obviously considering where it's been at some times of this, particularly with the Goldberg Lesnar, kind of matches where every finisher would get kicked out of. It was quite refreshing to see. When someone hit their finish, that was it. And that's why when Jeff Hardy hit the Swanton, some nice sequences there. That was a nice sequence too, actually, when he hit the Swanton, after doing the dive on the other side, then coming back in, hitting the Twist of Fate, going up the top, hitting the Swanton, boom, to get Bro Kick, or Claymore. Yeah. Which one was it? Claymore Bro Kick.
I can't remember.
What? Jeff's elimination?
Yeah.
Claymore.
Claymore. It's annoying having both guys with a boot as a finish.
Yeah, because I think Sheamus did it to AJ.
No, Drew did it to AJ, the jumping one.
I can't remember that.
Yeah.
AJ went... Even in my notes, I've written it down wrong for the same reason. Right. I was like, he did a Bro Kick, yeah.
Yeah, it was AJ went to hit the phenomenal forearm at the end, and then midair was a Claymore.
That was really cool, actually.
That was cool. Yeah. But yeah, everyone went down basically to the finish, which I think is sweet, especially because they had all the other spots too. But yeah, that's kind of what I'd say about it. Really, I think it was the right thing. I think we spoke about Jeff. We didn't speak about Jeff, but we mentioned Jeff being out first. But it's quite refreshing him not being out first, I guess. Yeah. And he still did quite a lot in the match kind of afterwards.
I mean, he was in it because of that great run. You can't not doing good when he was in it because of that great run he had with the title. He's in it because he's a champ, and he goes, "Man, Jeff used to mean a lot." He was a hot property, so it makes sense to kind of if there's any time to kind of bring that back to light, it was now, wasn't it? When he was in that for that reason.
Yeah, and also I quite liked the Omos. Oh, I loved Omos. I loved Omos taking off the door.
I like that spot. Yeah, I liked it. It worked because we knew Sheamus was sixth, he weren't jumping the queue. Because then it's you shouldn't be in it. I like that. It's clever. He just got another way. It's very clever. But then, we said in the group chat, I think you said, Lucas, is he legal then? Because he's in before, so...
But it happened with Henry, didn't it? When his pod broke.
I guess the way you look at it is then you're always legal. It's just that is a barrier stopping you from getting in. It is a timer. You can't get in. You're always legal, though, so... But
then, obviously, the thing is with WWE, these things, the rules only matter when they need to matter.
Yeah.
Because, again,
Did you get pinned inside the pod? Could someone break in and pin you inside? You don't even come in yet?
Well, yeah, exactly.
No, all the pins have to happen inside the ring. And it's weird, because when they were even pinning somebody, they moved their arm so they couldn't get to the rope as well. It's I wouldn't expect a rope break in an
Yeah,
elimination
DQ.
chamber.
Yeah.
No rope break. No, rope breaks are a thing since. It's been a few years. It was one a few years ago when they made it a thing.
It's
And I remember
strange.
because we mentioned rope breaks. Remember, because it didn't happen inside Hell in a Cell or a cage match. We mentioned it being a bit daft, but it seems that rope breaks are.
Like you say,
I guess it makes sense.
As and when.
Essentially, like, what's stopping you from pinning your opponent like half out the ring and half in the ring, even in a no DQ match?
It should be anywhere in the structure. It should just be anywhere in the structure. But
yeah.
I mean, the thing is, obviously, you mentioned about the Omos thing. That was obviously after. So Randy Orton's elimination was by Kofi Kingston. Kofi was the fourth man in the match. So then, obviously, AJ was going to be the next man in the match because we knew Sheamus was going to be last. So going back to the actual thing of what happened was Omos was on the outside of the ring. He literally walked up to the plexiglass on the back of the door that had already been broken earlier in the night. Just literally picked it up, ripped it out. AJ then jumped down, ran round the structure, came in after Orton had RKO'd everyone and just went and tried to pin everyone. But yeah, it was quite smart and something that was different.
Exactly. Again, another refreshing thing to see, being a new kind of way to book it.
And, you know, it's obviously he's still in the match, but it's the first time I think someone's entered the match through the door, apart from obviously entering the match normally. But yeah, that was quite interesting. But yeah.
Yeah, no, for what it was all right. As I said, it was what it needed to be. And when they kept talking about how the importance it was that there was all former champions, the only thing that irritated me though was I didn't like the Omos thing. I think if they were doing it, it was for a reason. It made me think that the Miz was going to then come through the pod as a way to get into the match after Drew had won, and then climb through that way. So he literally sneak attacks him.
That would have been cool.
Yeah, so do you know what I mean? As instead of coming down to the ring, he comes out that way because there's already a ref in the ring there.
Yeah.
I thought that was what was going to happen. Then it didn't, and I was like, oh, well, if it was just a way to get AJ in, like, it didn't really make it. For me, it didn't make sense because they may have all been down, but by the time he'd got down in and around, they would have had longer than a 3 count to then kind of recuperate.
And you want to be the last in. You want everybody eliminated before you get in. So I guess he saw it as no one's going to get eliminated if they're all down. But like you say, by the time he got there, the energy's back to get up.
Yeah, I mean, if anything, you would have wanted Omos to hold both doors in, like both of these pod doors in, so he can't come out. Do you know what I mean? So then it extends the time that he's in the pod. But yeah, other than that,
what was stopping Omos getting in the pod in the match at that point too?
Yeah, and helping out. Yeah.
You know, it just, for me, it kind of fell flat. But I guess the way they booked it, it was good. It did look good. It was refreshing, but it would have made more sense for him to prevent him from getting in the ring, so then he's fresher longer, than him rushing to get in the ring and then still get no pinfall out of it. If there was a pinfall out of it, it would have made more sense.
Yeah.
But yeah, no, that Claymore kick to the phenomenal forearm at the end was something special. You know, I feel like there's only every now and then you get to see their moments. I think the last time I see a moment that made me go, like, bloody hell, like, I was just struck by it, was I think it was Adam Cole and Ricochet when it was the moonsault into the super kick on NXT. Yeah. That was the last time I see something like that. That made me just stop in my tracks for a second and just be absolutely flabbergasted by it. But yeah, that Claymore to the phenomenal forearm was beautiful. That was probably for me the highlight of that match.
There's been a few like with RKOs over the years. I remember like the Evan Bourne one when he did the shooting star into it, and the Seth one.
See, I never liked that one.
I prefer the Seth one.
I loved. Seth one was
where he went to do the stomp, and then as he's in midair, just the RKO bang.
I think, and then you could see in his reaction when he did that at the time. He was like, he knew that like he had that's only going to ever happen once. That exact jump.
That Mania as well, wasn't it?
Yeah. Same Mania 31. Same Mania.
So he had that at the start, and then went on and won it.
Yeah.
Ironically, talking about a Money in the Bank cash in that happened that one, didn't it? So, so yeah, just a quick run through. So with this one, obviously, so Randy Orton was the first one out. Then Sheamus hitting a bro kick on Kofi. Kofi got eliminated. Drew McIntyre eliminating Jeff Hardy. Then Sheamus hit a bro kick on Drew. Then got phenomenal forearmed. Sheamus was out. And then the last two in the ring, AJ and Drew. And as we've spoken about, AJ goes to hit the phenomenal forearm, gets hit in midair with a Claymore. Drew McIntyre wins, still your WWE champion, meaning that me, Scott, and finally Rob gets on the board for this pay-per-view. Means that we get points. Lucas, the only one not to get a point for this one. You said Randy Orton would win. He went out first. So yeah, obviously we have Drew McIntyre is celebrating. The chamber starts to raise. I think we kind of all guessed what was going to happen, but maybe not the fact that as he gets down off the ropes, turns around, bang, hit with a spear from Bobby Lashley. Ironically, so you got SmackDown champion, spear, finisher. The SmackDown challenger, finisher, is a spear. A guy on Drew McIntyre hitting the move on Drew McIntyre, a spear.
Yeah, it's a bit overkill.
It's spear heavy, this show, but yeah. So obviously Bobby Lashley then went on a bit of a rampage, beat down on Drew McIntyre, locked in the Hurt Lock, and then a full Nelson slam on Drew McIntyre. Then he stared at the Tritantron for a little bit, and then we get it, boys. I came to play. Out comes the Miz, hits a DDT on Drew McIntyre, kick out, skull crushing finale. 1, 2, 3, and new WWE champion, The Miz. He's The Miz. He's awesome, and
he's also the WWE champ.
He's WWE champion. Did we also, there was a thing after the show where he actually did a callback. He's like, oh yeah, remember 10 years ago, there was an angry Miz girl that was really angry when I won the title. Yeah. I wonder if she's still going to be angry now that I've won it again. So that was a nice throwback. But yeah, I mean, because I know you and me, Scott, we were going backwards and forwards about, is Miz going to cash in or not? And we were thinking of using bonus points. But yeah, in theory, I'm glad that I didn't, because I thought he was going to cash in and not win the title. So
yeah, and I thought he was going to cash in inside the chamber, because obviously that was that kind of idea I had a few months back. And I'm glad I didn't pick it, even though, because I think if I would have went full force, it wouldn't have been on Miz cashing in. It would have been stupidly going, he's definitely doing it inside the chamber. So I'm glad I didn't commit that far. But yeah, so I probably wouldn't have got a point for it anyway. But all in all, I'm happy to see it. I know there's people out there probably thinking Miz's time has passed. Even us on this show, you know, we've said there were times where it felt like it definitely ain't going to happen. You know, WWE missed their chance with it. They didn't pull the trigger. Now, I don't think he's going to Mania somehow, which is going to be a shame for him, because it's kind of what happened when he was WWE champ last time. He was the background thing to the Rock storyline. So that's a worry for the Miz. But at the same time, you're giving the Miz a title run. I'm happy to see it. All year, he has tried to stack the odds in his favor. You know, a 2-on-1 title match, which I hated at the time, obviously, the handicap thing. Weirdly convincing someone to put the Money in the Bank on the line, weirdly getting it back on a fake cash-in, you know, like, and it's all come to this, to him now finding another way to screw someone, and that is getting Lashley. And I really like that it is Lashley, because I think we are going with that, because you got to remember, they are the Hurt Business. Business is a big part of that name. And as soon as I saw them talking backstage, I was like, yes, this is a good way to do it. The only thing is, it was too obvious. I don't think he should have ever been in the match. It would have been way better, but I think it's because there's no fans. Because the excitement of a cash-in is great with fans. Like, oh my gosh, I was hoping it would happen, and it has. You know what I mean? But it wouldn't have been that, you know, without the fans. And so I think it was kind of good that they made it obvious. It was obvious it was going to happen. You had him earlier in the show being like, "You're not even in the thing," from Bad Bunny, and then you like Dan said earlier, he was in his gear all night. He had the thing with Lashley. It was obvious something was going to happen. So I think this is probably, if you're going to do that, this is the year to do it, where you make it obvious, and giving it to Miz, having him the champ. I don't know where we're going to go, but it has to put Lashley. Surely the agreement is Lashley gets a title shot from the Miz, and maybe it does become a triple threat or something like that, and there's a bit of back and forth. But I think it's a very clever way to use the Hurt Business storyline, to use Miz as a coward by getting someone else to do his dirty work. And my only worry, and gets Drew possibly winning the title in front of the fans again. My only worry is, like he, you know, kind of was rubbed off last year. My only worry again is that we are now about to get into a third title reign for Drew when he shouldn't have lost it back at Hell in a Cell, whatever it was, to Randy Orton. But other than that, I'm very happy with what's going on at the moment.
Yeah, look, I mean, I think Scott's covered like most of the main points of that. I think that this is definitely a way that they'll be changing the Mania thing, because they got another pay-per-view to sell. I don't expect Miz to be champion still, weirdly, even after this, at Mania. But yeah, look, I think the division here is going to come from the fact that, like I said, Drew going into a possible third reign as champion. But I think it's good for Money in the Bank, though, because we spoke about it. Well, I feel we spoke about Money in the Bank so much for the past year, because obviously it has been an almost year with this. And obviously from them not knowing what they were doing with Otis to, them then switching it and not having an idea what they're doing. But I think they needed a cash-in to happen, because it hadn't happened now. It didn't happen last year. In 2020, there was no actual cash-in that took place. Because the cash-in before that were back in 2019, because Lesnar got rid of his really quickly, and so did the woman. Who won the 2019 women's? I can't remember one. But anyway, they haven't been cash-in in quite some time. That way.
Charlotte?
Yeah, Bailey, she got rid of it quite quickly as well, didn't she? So there was been no cash-in now for 18 months, I think. No actual cash-in winning the match. And obviously, Money in the Bank around the corner again soon. It makes sense to have this as a later success. And The Miz obviously
June,
joining. I'm sorry?
June, isn't it?
May, June time, yeah. But yeah, look, this was fine by me.
Yeah, no, I'm annoyed because I was saying in the last one, I'm sure it was either the last one or the one before that we done with the videos, that the Miz is going to cash in soon. I'm annoyed that I didn't say Miz is cashing in. I definitely needed the points. I think this has been my worst prediction.
One point.
1 point, man.
But Lucas has got it right. But yeah, we'll get into that.
Yeah. But yeah, no, good for Miz. I mean, when he had the IC title, when he was feuding with Dolph, way back 4 years ago, something like that. It was hot then. He deserved an attempt at the main event then, and he didn't get it.
Yeah.
He's had loads of missed opportunities, and now this is his chance. I don't think he's going to be a champion for long, but I don't think for someone like The Miz, it's not about the length, it's what he does with it. And I think if The Miz can elevate the IC title very quickly on talking smack, imagine what he's going to do with the WWE Championship. So I'm looking forward to seeing what he does next.
Probably lose it on Raw.
Don't say that. We don't know when this is getting released, mate.
Well, Miz, we're not champion anymore. Thank you for being champion.
Thank you for the memories.
So yeah, that looks like that is that's it for the Elimination Chamber review. The only thing that we've got left to do is obviously have a look at the predictions table and see how that's looking at the moment. So Lucas, you have taken a step closer to 30 points. You're on 29. You had a very good showing, 3 points on this show, taking you up to 29. I actually had a pretty decent outing as well. I move up onto 38 points, still in third place, only a point behind Rob. You go back up to 39 points, which you were on previously, and then there was a bit of a boo-boo, but obviously you now are legitimately on 39 points.
How bad is that you're where you were after the Rumble, but somehow you've gained the point?
And still not hit that magical 40-point mark to safe from relegation. But yes, Scott, you had a decent chamber as well. You are up in top place, out on your own now, 42 points. Means we've only got Fastlane and WrestleMania now it's now me or Rob to catch you. So,
well, you never know. Lucas can still get there, mate. There's a lot of matches on the Mania card. Yeah. He has a really good Mania.
But the only thing is, it's all right us predicting them, but how many of them are going to get changed and null and void? So,
yeah, true.
Like, he could pick everyone to win, but then all the matches could change last minute and be like, oh, actually, yeah. So you've picked this person to win this, but actually, yeah, sorry, we're not going to give you
They're not even in the match, yeah.
So, yeah, that is the table. Lucas, 4th place with 29. Me, 3rd place with 38. Rob, 2nd place with 39. Scott, top with 42 points. So, yeah, that is it, everybody. Thank you so much for watching. Don't forget, if you like what you see, to like, share, and subscribe talking of subscribe, make sure that you are subscribing because we have got some massive news coming your way very, very soon. Keep your eyes peeled for that. Keep sharing, keep subscribing, keep checking back. And who knows what's going to happen on the road to WrestleMania, or as we say, on the fast lane.
Yeah, we're changing now. We're moving
now.
into the next lane, aren't we? Going to speed through.
We're not just on the normal lane. We're on the fast lane to WrestleMania. So, yeah, we can put our foot down now, accelerate more towards WrestleMania, do a bit of sign pointing, and who knows what's going to happen at Fastlane. So, thank you guys for watching. Thank you guys for joining me. Thank you guys for watching at home. Point at WrestleMania sign.
Everybody,
we'll see you soon. We'll see you soon. Take care. Stay safe.